It's known as the Plum Book. It's the list of the thousands of positions the incoming administration now has to fill. So theoretically, we now have a better idea of the direction of the new administration. We don't just have to rely on exhortations of change. The trouble is, according to some, when you start plotting that course, you start moving backwards.
I mean, what we're seeing here is that Barack Obama is once again taking us back to the 1990s in terms of the people that he's assembling. It's the old guard people who were wrong about so much from the beginning.
Obama supporters were forced to defend the president-elect this week from cries of sellout as his new economic team was unveiled. Any past errors of economic advisor Lawrence Summers, they argued, will now be valuable experience in implementing future decisions. The new administration will be able to hit the ground running.
He's laid out a new drive on energy independence, on health care. He's refused to back away from any of that in the crisis, and instead has moved his game up. So, you know, there's a hope that he is using very experienced people who have centrist credentials to drive a very bold progressive program.
Some hope Obama's expected Attorney General, Eric Holder, has learned from the past. He helped pardon billionaire fugitive Mark Rich. In 2002, he said those who insisted the Bush administration follow proper procedure in its response to 9/11 should be, quote, got rid of. This election year, however, he has spoken forcefully against the excesses of the war on terror.
A great nation should not detain people, military or civilian, in dark places beyond the reach of law.
So how much better would Holder be?
We had the most politicized, tainted Justice Department in the history of this country for the past 8 years. So you could have Santa Claus be the Attorney General in this country, and they would do a more effective job than Alberto Gonzales.
With the legal backing of then Attorney General Gonzales, top CIA official and current Obama advisor John Brennan was able to advocate so-called enhanced interrogation techniques as a means of eliciting information from war on terror suspects. Though no longer in the running for CIA director, Brennan is playing a key role in reshaping the tarnished intelligence community for the Obama presidency.
He was one of the people advising Barack Obama on this illegal spying on Americans. Barack Obama initially had a very good position on this, and as he started to seek broader advice from his circle of people, presumably John Brennan, he then backed off on it, and ultimately Barack Obama backed down and voted to allow retroactive immunity for telecommunications companies that had spied on Americans.
The new administration may be poised to hit the ground running in late January, but there is disquiet about the direction in which the Obama team is facing. Shihab, Rattansi, Al Jazeera, Washington.
For more on this, Jane Hampshire is a film producer and editor of the political blog Firedog Lake and is with us here to talk more about Obama's picks for his executive appointments. So if we listen to that story that we just heard, it sounds like not a lot of change coming out of some of these appointments now. Barack Obama set to announce his national security team. Hillary Clinton likely to be named Secretary of State. A lot of people saying these are a lot of familiar faces.
Well, I don't know how people thought that Obama was going to be able to come in and really do anything else. If you look at the history of Jimmy Carter and of Bill Clinton, they brought in strange faces to Washington, D.C. and were promptly hamstrung by the D.C. establishment and had a very difficult time effecting change. I mean, Bill Clinton's presidency was marked by his determination to stay in office more than anything else against those tides. So Barack Obama, I really think, has tried to neutralize those groups. He's got a very tough task ahead of him.
Perhaps a tough task, but his pledge when he was being, running for office was change, change, change. That word was uttered in almost every sentence, and this doesn't seem like change to the ordinary American.
Well, it doesn't. You look at people like Larry Summers and all the Rubin acolytes that he's appointed to his economic team, and it's of concern, and yet you see the market crashing every day, and they've taken it as their mandate to try and keep wealth from disappearing from the planet. I think he doesn't want to appoint someone who got it right, like Nouriel Roubini or Paul Krugman, who would have made the markets very nervous, although people such as myself would have much preferred to see somebody who could have anticipated what was happening in those positions.
So what does this say then? Does this say that Washington, as every politician seems to say, is broken? Is this just evidence of that you really can't change the Washington system, that it exists and it moves the way it does no matter what? Or are you telling me that perhaps, it's not the people you put in place, but it's how you use those people?
Well, look at Friday's Wall Street Journal. Karl Rove wrote an editorial praising most of Obama's appointments so far, with the exception of Melody Barnes. He's very much pacified a lot of his critics out of the barn, which gives him, I think, a lot more latitude to be able to implement his policies. And as Bob Borsaj said in that previous clip, he really hasn't backed down from the promises that he made. He really doesn't have a lot of choice but to be able to govern from the left right now, because the country wants out of Iraq, and he considers that a mandate.
So how then does Barack Obama make his administration distinct from the previous administration, Bush administration?
Well, he's in a very difficult climate right now. I mean, during the Clinton administration, the Republican conservative movement was very much on the ascendancy, and they had all of their ducks in order to make life very difficult for him. The climate is very different right now. The Republican Party is in disarray, the conservative movement is disgraced, their ideas haven't worked, and people are really anxious for change. So he has the opportunity right now to apply a little shock doctrine technique himself. Upcoming this week, we'll be hearing from the Detroit auto industry, and I'm hoping that they come in and make a big plea for health care.
All right, we'll see. Jane Hampshire, appreciate you joining us.